All right, I'm here with my buddy Chase Arrington. So, how are you doing?
Doing well on this Sunday afternoon. Can't complain. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing great. Getting ready for this book launch to come out. So, I'm going to get right into some of your bio. So, just to give anybody who's listening some information, Chase is a school administrator within Guilford County Schools in Greensboro, North Carolina. He attended A&T, North Carolina A&T, and he was a trumpet player and section leader, right?
Yes,
Of the
ma'am. Yeah.
Blue and Gold Marching Machine while he was there. And he's a member of Kappa Kappa Psi. He's a member of Phi Mu Alpha. And right now, he is currently in his third year as assistant principal at Western Guilford Middle School. And previously, you were assistant principal at Forsyth Academy Charter School in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And then you also taught math at Mendenhall Middle School, where you were selected teacher of the year. And so, I know you do a lot of mentoring and helping out of not only, your school students, but also in the Blue and Gold Marching Machine. So we're going to get into that in just a few. But if you could just start off by telling me a little bit more about like who you are. I know I read some of your bio, but like I'm sure I missed some spots too. So kind of help fill in that gap.
Yeah. So I appreciate it. You hit you hit all the points.
Okay.
But I'll go back and fill in some things. So I know a lot of people are like, how does one love band so much but ended up teaching math? I'm always asked when I'm in education, people are like, do you teach, are you a music teacher? And I was like, no, I'm not a music teacher. Chase, why didn't you go into music education? And I said, it's a hobby for me. And so, but I really, really, really love math. I love the STEM fields. And so, while at A&T, I had a tutor in the math department, and I found myself, working with students who, just didn't have what I felt the basic computational skills to be successful. And I say, we have to, break these systems that are in place in education to, make sure that our students of color have access to what they want to do when they get older. And, whether it be college, the military, or entrepreneurship, they need to have that access utilizing those math skills. And so while I don't expect everybody to love math the way that I do expect people not to be afraid of it and be able to tackle it. Because that's what life is. If things are going to get thrown at you, how you respond to it is going to determine your character, your integrity, having perseverance and just finding that confidence to get up every time that you're knocked down. And so that's the way I looked at math. It was like this huge challenge each time, just trying to problem solve. And so helping people learn that process along the way, that's what led me to education. And then, while in the classroom, I worked alongside my principals, and they gave me opportunities to participate in a leadership team. And looking at it from a more macro level in the school, I said, okay, I think I might want to be a school administrator. So that led me to go to grad school at UNCG and, get my master's there. And now, being in education for 14 years, I was led to love policy. And education policy became this newfound adventure for me. And it's not discussed heavily because we think when you think of education policy, we think of people in political offices. But they're the ones making those systems that are in place that don't include people that look like you and myself, Christy. So being able to sit at the table with those individuals, that's my future goal. And so, I want to work the system and become a principal and then, move forward. And I don't know what life has to offer for me, but I do know we have to work to break these racial inequities out here and provide access for all of our students, and specifically for our students of color, because Black lives do matter. And in this particular unprecedented time, as people would say, is more prevalent than ever that the systems that were instilled over 400 years ago are still here. They're just written in different ways. And so when I look at the policy work in education, that's what led me now to UNCG as I work on my doctorate and focusing on education leadership and looking at research through a critical race theory lens to continue looking at policy work and the intersectionality of how it impacts specifically transient population of students in special education. Because those are the students that are constantly being suspended. Those are the students constantly being sent to the principal's office because teachers aren't able to connect with them because the students lack the cultural capital in order to connect with the community that they keep moving to. And so when you look at a student that have been in school for 13 years, K-12, yet they've attended 10, 12 different schools, how do they connect with anyone? And so they lack trust. They don't believe in the system. They don't believe in education because the system has failed them. And so, you know, that's the work I do, and that's the work I look at. And I won't attach it to band just yet. I'll let you lead me there. But that's filling in the gaps and the holes of everything that you just presented here. So.
Oh my gosh, that was awesome. I had so many thoughts going through this as you were speaking. The first thing is that, you know, I always want to give a shout out to someone who is trying to help Black folks in STEM, and you being a black man in STEM, you know, you get nothing but kudos from me with that. And, you know, you're just like a man after my own heart. And then also I want to point out that, you know, you taught math, and people come to you they would say, well, we thought you would be a music teacher. Why are you doing math? And my thought behind it is, you know, music is math in so many ways.
It is. It really is. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So how is that doctoral program going? Because I know the struggle is so real. Are you hanging in there?
I just never knew it was so much to read.
And plus, when you work full time, because you're working,
I'm still working full time. You're talking about a pandemic, and it's not like it's a regular school year where you know I could get my footing in place. From August to now, everything has constantly changed. Each week, we're getting a new policy, you know, coming down where students aren't going to school, students are coming to school, you know, remote learning, face-to-face instruction. And, you know, I work specifically with the scheduling at my school. So trying to bring the kids back in the building, trying to maintain social distance, you know, being mindful of our most vulnerable population, then also trying to figure out, are our kids having enough food at home? And being able to deliver those packages and making sure students are getting fed. That's the other part that this, you know, this pandemic has shown individuals that schools are more than just the education piece. It's more than just the reading, math, science, social studies. We are an integral part of our society. And so trying to balance that with coming home in the evenings at 5 o'clock and then sit and read from 5 to 10. And then you have class every week, and then you're sitting in class for 3 hours at a time, and you're like, oh my God, when is this gonna end? But then you enjoy it, you enjoy the journey. So I'm not trying to rush it, you know, because I do desire to be an expert in my field. And so the only way I can be that expert is if I grapple in that territory. And so I'm enjoying the process. My professors have been nothing but short of amazing. I mean, they have really been so supportive, you know, when they call you and check on you because you look like you just had a struggling day in class, right after class, and they just call you and say, hey, is everything okay? I didn't see you engaged like you usually are. And I, you know, just, you know, being able to share with them some of the challenges that we're facing in the school system with just trying to combat the policies and the structures that aren't including our students, as well as the teachers. And so it's a balance of adult and youth learners. And so, yeah, I mean, it's exciting. It's exciting. I'm not rushing towards the dissertation, but I'm thinking like next year at this time, I'll be preparing to, you know, talk about my proposal. I'm like, I can't believe it's already here. I mean, it's moved so fast.
You hang in there. That's what I want to say. You hang in there, and you had such a better attitude. It seems like you have such a better attitude than I had because the struggles are real. We'll have to talk offline about that.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Let's get into this book. So as you know, the HBCU Experience, HBCU Band Alumni Edition comes out this Tuesday, April 27th. You can find the book on Amazon. Got to put in that plug there. So I want to get into the whole like HBCU band, but before that, let's talk about your alma mater, North Carolina A&T. Not that I'm biased or anything. Aggie Pride, yes. So tell me about you choosing A&T. I know you grew up in the area, but Was the HBCU always your first choice, or did you think of other places?
Always, it's been the only choice for me. In high school, a lot of my friends, they were going to the Carolinas and NC State and ECU. Being from Eastern North Carolina, only 45 minutes away from NC State and 45 minutes away from East Carolina University. A lot of people went to those schools, which I'm fine with. I have nothing. They are great institutions. However, I knew that I wanted to be around my people. I knew I wanted to stay around people of color because the support that I received in my K-12 education. My teachers, they were so supportive of me, and they knew what we were going to face once we got to college. And so being able to provide us those opportunities in high school and middle school, I knew that was the direction I was going to go. Now, as far as A&T, my brother went to North Carolina Central, and we're 4 years apart. So when he went to Central, I was like, okay, Central might be on the list. It might be on the list. But after spending 4 years there with him, I felt like I was already in school with him. And I was like, I don't want to go to Central. And so from there, I started seeing A&T, my first time seeing the band program face to face, and not going too much into band, but that's what led me to A&T. And then finding out that it was a school focused heavily in STEM. And I said, I went there. At that time, I said, I want to be an engineer, and I want to majoring in, computer science or computer engineering, and possibly go that direction. And so that led me to A&T after seeing them the first time in '97. I apologize. My little buddy is here.
Okay.
But, in '97, when I saw them for the first time, I said, I think this is where I want to go. And so after having people from high school and from my community that went to A&T, people try to discourage me, and they were like, A&T is a party school. People go there and they get lost. They don't. And I was like, that's their choice. Because any school can be a party school in my opinion. Can. And then, once I got to campus, I was like, yes, this was the right decision for me. In addition to that, my parents, they were advocates for, you're going to school where you get money. Because, it's money out here. I just don't see a point in you having to pay for school once you graduate. And I said, fair enough. And so I worked really hard in high school to try to maintain, the GPA and the academics and the SAT score and the ACT score. And I was afforded a full scholarship to A&T. And so that helped me make my decision. It was like, I told God, I said, look, if this is where I'm supposed to be, you're going to find the funding for me. I've done the work. I'm going to trust you. And that's what led me to A&T and got me to A&T. So.
Oh my gosh, that's a great story. That's a great story. I could not picture you at Central. No offense.
No, not at all.
no shade.
Right, yeah, no shade. But Eagle Pride amplified, whatever they say. Yeah, but no shade.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the Blue and Gold Marching Machine. Something very close to both of our hearts. Okay, so let's talk about your experience in the band. And I'm trying to remember. I read your chapter ahead of time, but I read everybody's, and I'm trying to remember if you talked deep about that. But go ahead.
So my first year at A&T was 2002. So I was a part of what we call the Legends of '02 because we were we were the last Dr. Hodge class.
Okay.
And so, we were there his retirement year, and coming in under such strong leadership. And, Doc he was different, as he was different, and he demanded a lot from you. And you came into practice. It wasn't so much of uneasiness, but you were always on your best because you never knew when he was going to go one by one and call you out. And it was going to happen. And it was going to happen on a march. And you better be ready when it's coming. And so it just taught me the militaristic style of marching band and where it derived from and the high expectations. But I was able to garner so many relationships and so many friendships that I still maintain in my adulthood. And so looking back at my freshman year, coming in, I promise you, I never thought in a million years that I would, I guess you can say, still be a pillar of the community of some sort. I was just happy to be in the number. And I was just humbled. I was grateful to even be a part of it, because, coming from, my high school, we didn't get a chance to do a lot of festival work. So we didn't go to competitions in the concert arena. We did a lot of marching band competitions, but when I sat with some of those amazing musicians my freshman year, I said, "Oh, Chase, you got to pick it up. Like, you have to get it together if you want to maintain in this program." And so moving throughout the freshman year, I was able to compete against some of the best bands in this country that made me even better. So sitting across the field from the Norfolk States and the FAMUs and the Bethune-Cookmans, it just pushed me to say, you know what, I can be better, and I want to be better, because if I'm going to be the best, I have to compete with the best. And so moving, from freshman year to, sophomore year, that's when Dr. Ruff came in. And so it was a change in leadership. And anytime there's a change in leadership, whether the individuals work together or not, people are always going to want to put a stamp of approval on their own program. And so there was a lot of shift, but we blew up that year. We went from marching a 160 block and the year before to marching a 192 block. And I said, my God, we could barely fit in Fraser Hall.
Yes.
But
that was the Vegas year too.
That was the Vegas year. And I was just about to get to that. Defeat the Beat was that year. And, we were awarded that money and we won that year. And so, that was off to a great start for Dr. Ruff. And so, looking ahead in 2003, and we went against Southern University in Vegas. And, that was only my second time. I'm ashamed to say it almost. That was only my second time on a plane. So if it wasn't for the Blungo March Machine, I don't know when I would have ever stepped foot on a plane. And so, being able to go all the way to Vegas and, compete against Southern, that was another highlight. And then moving into, 2004 was the year for me, it was that change. It was that transition, junior in college. And, right after that, I had just pledged Kappa Kappa Psi in the spring of 2004. And Dr. Ruff came up to me and said, "Chase, you're my new section leader." I was like, "What? Wait a minute, hold up. Wait a minute." I'm thinking back to 2002, and I'm like, I never thought that this would be the case. Because I just showed up and I love the band, I love the program. Charles Connor, Chuck, who was my dean for KK Psi, he told me, he said, "Love the band." That's all he would say, just love the band. And he taught us how to love the band. And you guys are going to read his story, and he's going to be on this too. So yeah, I'm not going to tell his story, but he just taught us to love the band. And so when I became section leader, I just learned from him to create this sense of community amongst my brothers and sisters. And so building trust and leadership amongst people who come in after you, but also people who brought you in, is challenging. And having to, hold people accountable in a way that they may not have ever been held accountable before. And having them to trust you when you go into battle, that, you stand before this other trumpet section or this other band program, and we're going to battle them together. And, we're going to battle to the death. And so, and then, moving into, 05 and 06, Indianapolis, we went against Tennessee State. And so, I've just seen a gamut of bands and sat across from so many band programs. 05 was huge. It was amazing. It was the first time we host Norfolk State in Corbett Sports Arena, and we had the Battle of the Bands there. And everyone always talks about that battle, because that was the fight. That was the fight. That was like the Goliath versus the David versus Goliath. Norfolk was huge, and but we're still held our own, and we still fight. But during that course, I learned so much from just leadership and the feedback that I received from Dr. Ruff, and then also from the late great Mr. Millsap. Mr. Millsap came on staff in 06, and it just changed the whole band program, in my opinion.
I marched with him.
Oh, he is nothing short of amazing, and I miss him immensely. Wow, him being a charter member for Scream Machine, and the sections for the trumpets, and then him coming back and being my assistant director. And I'll never forget, he was on the podium one day, and we were playing Children of Sanchez, and he asked the trumpets. He said, "Trumpets, play this line for me real quick." And he played. He was like, Now, band, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And because he said they're giving me pizzazz, and he just loved it. He just loved everything about it. And
he's an awesome musician. I will tell
awesome.
you, yeah, as somebody who was in like symphonic band with him, he's just an awesome A+ musician.
Yes, yes, he was. And this is the quote. He always said, discipline is at the pinnacle of success. That's what he always said. And he said, if you're disciplined, you can find that success. And he would always just say, feces roll downhill. Because, he would say it, because if it's not tight at the top, you better believe it. It's going to roll downhill. And he always said, whoever's in charge, that's where it stops. You got to be accountable for everything that takes place in this organization. But he taught me so much when it came to, just building that camaraderie. And when he came back as a charter member, and I don't think people understand how huge that is. Like, he was the one that formalized this trumpet section the way that it is. He helped form this trumpet section the way that we are today. And for him to be my director, and for him at that time, he was the only brass person that was on staff. And so we instantly connected, because it was like we understood each other, and not just brass, but he played trumpet. And I was so excited to finally meet the legend. I've seen him at Central State. I've seen him when he was at Dudley High School, pioneering the East Coast. And so for him to be at A&T, and, I worked alongside him in 2007 and 2008 when I joined the staff, we just did some amazing work together. And he trusted me, as well as Dr. Ruff. That was the part I think that they taught me in leadership. You have to delegate. And when you delegate, you have to trust that people are going to do the job while you're not there.
Right.
And if they don't, it's an opportunity for you to bring them back in. But you can't micromanage every piece of the job. Otherwise, people aren't going to work for you and work with you. And so they taught me the difference between being a manager versus a supervisor. And I think that's what I learned to do as a section leader. That's what I learned to do while I was on staff, because moving to staff, it was a challenge, going from section leader to trusting the next section leader to take over, and not staying there and wanting to go back to sectionals and run sectionals, but being able to coach them and teach them. And I think that was my first true opportunity at coaching and leading other, young adults, teenagers, and then, and moving on into, what I do now, coaching teachers. And so, they gave me that first opportunity, and I'm forever indebted to it, because it gave me opportunities to learn about myself. That was the big portion, going to the retreats each summer and realizing why these different personalities are clashing all the time. And, yet we're all trying to reach this same goal of having the number one band in the world, at the number one institution in the world. It's just the fact that we had to learn how to work with conflict. And I think that's what emerged out of our out of my time at A&T in the program. So yeah, I think I answered your question, huh?
Well, I was thinking, like, I know you wrote a chapter, but it sounded like you need to write a book, because you got like a good self-help kind of motivational story to tell people.
I appreciate it. That's what I wanted. I want to be able to give back to people. Like, I don't know. I guess that's just me, servant leadership. And again, where did I learn that? Dr. Kenneth G. Ruff. He's servant leader of all servants. So I can't take anything away from, he's always the first one there, and he's the last one to leave. And he's like, this is what we do, and we're going to be on time. He taught me to be timely, because he will leave you. He will leave you sitting in that parking lot, and play around with him if you want to. So right. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I got to give this shout out to Dr. Ruff, because you talked about, like, I'm going to talk to Chuck. Well, I actually talked to him yesterday, and we were talking about how, like, I feel like the band it was great with Dr. Hodge, and that was my director, but it's just gone up to higher and higher heights, and I think Dr. Ruff has done like a tremendous job.
I agree. The moment when I realized, things were really shifting was the year the band went to the Macy's parade. I said, oh my God. And I mean, while I was not in band at that time, but my God, when I tell you Thanksgiving Day, I believe, what was it, 2012? I think that was 2012. I had Aggie Pride on. A&T was on that day, and everybody was like, Chase, what's going on? Like my band, my alma mater ended up opening up the Macy's Day Parade, the first band that came through. And that was a huge opportunity for us. And, you know, seeing some of the other bands that are participating in Macy's Day, and, you know, other HBCUs that are having the opportunities to participate as well, I think that's a huge feat. That's a huge feat, because I'm sure decades ago, we wouldn't have been able to do so.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So, yeah, go ahead.
That really made me emotional when I saw it that day, because, you know, I was at home with both my parents, and it was just really good. In fact, I like had it on my DVR for the longest, and I think my DVR broke, and I was so mad because I couldn't just like have a quick click. I mean, of course I can go on YouTube now and find it, but like
it's not the same, because that was the actual moment.
Yeah. So let's talk about, okay, well, you know, you talked about your time at A&T and everything. So, and I know you do a lot of mentoring now. So can you tell me more about like the mentoring you do as far as like the band?
So that's a good segue to bring in, you know, my beloved Phi Mu Alpha. You know, unfortunately, you know, the chapter wasn't on campus while I was at A&T. So I wasn't able to, you know, do it while in undergrad. So while in UNCG, I was able to, you know, pledge and join through UNCG's chapter when I started my doctoral program years ago before my dad got sick. And so I joined through there, but even through that, by being connected to the band program and still staying connected and tied to, you know, the trumpet section and other sections, and also KK Psi, being in the Greensboro area affords me opportunities to create those interpersonal relationship skills with them. And when I go around the band, you know, it's almost like this rite of passage for the trumpet section. You have to meet Chase. And I promise you, I don't think of myself that way, but the section leaders always feel like, no, they have to come meet you because you're always present. And the only reason that is the case is because I'm in the area, because other people, I connect them to other trumpet players across the nation. I make sure that they know these individuals, because that's how you learn about where we came from. Not just from me, because I don't hold all the history. We have so many vast viewpoints of it. And so you have, you know, various lenses. And so like yourself, where you march with Mr. Millsap, yet he was my director. So our lens are going to be completely different. And so I would always want them to connect with other people. But giving them that insight of, you know, the challenges I had to face as a section leader and not wanting them to go through those same things, but then also just life lessons. You know, if you need a meal, call me. You do not go hungry. You know, if your parents are on the other side of the country, or if you're out of money and you feel like, you know, your parent, you know, you don't want to call your parents, or you might not be able to call your parents. You know, I just don't know what's going on, but don't ever sit on that campus and feel like you have no one to turn to. If you need someone to talk to, if classes are hard, if you need a tutor, you know, I've helped so many students that have, you know, faced challenges in their math classes. You know, let's get on the phone call, send me your homework, let me work through it, and I'll call you and walk you through it. And then just being able to just sit and listen to them and see, you know, what is college life like? Is it everything you thought it was? Is it like a different world when you looked at a different world? And if it's not, you know, how can we talk about it? And so, you know, being connected with them, and then, you know, joining Phi Mu Alpha, it gave me another sight and a love for music that I didn't even know I had. I knew I had it, but I didn't know I had it. And so this part, I guess, was left out because it hadn't happened yet. But again, A&T is just, it's sketched in my heart. The Alpha Beta chapter on A&T's campus of Phi Mu Alpha, they made me an honorary chapter member. And so I'm just overjoyed by that. And the fact that, you know, going from mentorship to, you know, connecting with them as brothers. And now I look at it that, you know, I look at, again, Dr. Ruff is another sense of it. I'm a part of his chapter of KK Psi. I'm now a part of his chapter for Phi Mu Alpha, and I also joined his chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha. So
Okay.
we are connected in 3 different ways. Yet we all chose different pathways in life, but it all led us back to the Blue and Gold Marching Machine. And so having that opportunity to mentor, the young men and women in the Blue and Gold Marching Machine, it gives me that opportunity to teach them how to give back as well. And that's the goal, because the buck doesn't stop with me. Everything I'm giving you, my expectation is for you to give it back to other people. And so, yeah.
Okay. Well, I just remember seeing you in 2019 at the Kappa Kappa Psi Tau Beta Sigma convention, and I remember how A&T's KK side, like they flocked to you, like they really looked to you like a big brother. I just remember that. So
well, I'm humbled. I'm humbled that you say that. I really am. And the fact that you see that lets me know that the work I'm doing, I'm not doing it for show. I promise you, I'm not. I don't need the accolades. I just want to be able to support the band program as best as possible. And, still talking to the bros now. And now, we have an Alpha Zeta Alumni Association, which is a huge success, thanks to brother Robert Bratcher.
Okay.
For leading that off as our president. We have been working to, with mentorship programs. We're connecting brothers with their specific majors within the chapter. And so, I had a mentor this year Carrington Garner, he did his student teaching this year as an art teacher. And so, now we're working on trying to connect him and find him an art teaching position in the country so he can start teaching. And so we're trying to create these programs to make sure that our students know that there's a world after band. There's a world after Kappa Kappa Psi. There's a world after Phi Mu Alpha. There's a world after A&T, and you need to be prepared for it. And A&T is going to prepare you. I felt prepared. I mean, I have no doubt there. And so I guess, the flocking to me, I give to people what I guess I wanted people to give to me. And that's just a glimmer of hope and support and the opportunity to be seen. I don't want people to run up to me. I don't want that deference is a thing. I respect deference, but I also realize it's a two-way street. Times have changed. I don't expect times to stay the same the way that I was in college. I don't expect for people to be inferior of me or be intimidated by me when I come around. Oh my God, he's spring 04. Oh my God, that was a sexual leader. Oh my. Look, I'm the same man you are. Look, I just got here before you did, putting my pants on the same way you do, one leg at a time. And so if you break down those barriers, it makes your positionality of who you are shifts in their eyes because they feel like you become a person and not the name that came before you. But it is humbling to know that, and it's humbling to see that you see that yourself. Because I don't pay attention to it.
Okay. Well, Chase, you and we go way back. Because were you in high school or middle school? When was that?
I was in middle school.
Oh, get out of here. You were in high school.
I joined the ranks in middle school.
Oh my gosh, I cannot. Well, you know what? I don't even know what to say about that. But I'm so glad you were in this book. You were one of the people that I was like, man, Chase he's got to do it because I know you're going to have a lot to say. And your chapter was really good. I'm so excited about the book coming out. I think this interview with us is probably going to air on the day that it comes out.
Okay.
So if you want to, just to wrap things up, why do you think people should get this book? Why do you think it's needed in our world?
So in our world, I think this is the thing. Without the band, it's just a game. That's really how I feel. I think if people showed up to the football game and the bands weren't there, people would have a lot of questions. And it would just change. It would shift the atmosphere. It's almost like going to church and the choir's not singing. The praise.
I couldn't imagine that. Ooh.
Right. Could you imagine going straight to the word? And nothing is wrong with that. But I think that's what Bible study is for. But looking at, we are an integral part of the university system. We're an integral part of the culture that is built in HBCUs. And we are more than just, dancing. We're more than just marching. It's a whole organization. I mean, on most campuses, it is the largest organization, cohesive consensus organization on that campus. And when you think of being a part of that type of organization, and that you can be connected to so many people across the campus, just like, oh, wow, I want people to understand what we had. And it's special. It's so special. That's why year after year after year, people attend A&T without a scholarship, because they see the love and passion for band. I wasn't on a band scholarship. We didn't have those funds. And so the fact that Dr. Ruff is able to get those funds and bring more people there, I think that's awesome. But it's also an opportunity for us to market just to universities. And so for people to get an insight that HBCUs are still prevalent in today's society. And a lot of people want to go to, certain universities because it may carry a certain weight for a job. But I think, that band program afforded me the opportunity to get a great education. It afforded me the opportunity to make my lifelong friends, and for me to join fraternities that I learned so much about myself, so much about leadership. And so the book is going to discuss all of those different ways, because I'm sure the other great individuals that went to so many other universities, they have a story to tell, and you can connect with somebody. There's an opportunity for you to see your children connect with somebody that they might want to go to that school. It's an opportunity for you to find out ways that people can continue giving back to the university, because every school we need to make sure these HBCUs survive, because so many of them have struggled and are struggling, and we don't want that. And so this can be an opportunity to make sure HBCUs stay afloat in our communities, because they are a part of our history. And without HBCUs, I don't think any of us would be where we are today. And so that's my plug. Buy the book, support the book, learn from the book, and, connect with me on social media. Add me, follow me. If you have questions further after you read the book, I'm here.
Yeah. So tell us your social media handles and all that.
So social media, Instagram, common_denominator123. Facebook, I'm just Chase Arrington. And so people like common denominator. Yeah. Common denominator. It's math 1, 2, 3, just very simple. And Facebook, I'm just Chase Arrington. Just look me up. I got to go and remove a couple of people because I reached my 5,000 limit, but that's okay.
Let me find out you popping.
No. So I mean, it's an exciting adventure. It is. So I'm open to it. Follow me. Hit me up. I'm open. And if you have, people who have kids that are, interested in going to school, trumpet players, whatever it is, follow me. I just love to give back and make sure people have the opportunity and the access, the pathways. That's my focus, the pathways to success, to reach their dreams. That's the goal.
You have listened to the HBCU Band Experience with Christy Walker. Interviews and editing conducted by yours truly, Dr. Christy Walker. The music is District 4 by Kevin MacLeod, and you can find this podcast on HBCUbandexperience.podbean.com. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts. Take care.